The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society.
A shadowy government with its own Air Force, its own Navy, its own fundraising mechanism, and the ability to pursue its own ideas of the national interest, free from all checks and balances, and free from the law itself.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
We have before us the opportunity to forge a new world order.
In popular culture and UFO conspiracy theories, men in black are supposed to be men dressed in black suits who claim to be government agents. These men harass or threaten UFO witnesses to keep them quiet about what they have seen. It is sometimes implied that they may be aliens themselves. The term is also frequently used to describe mysterious men working for unknown organizations, as well as various branches of the government allegedly designed to protect secrets or perform other strange activities.
Washington, D.C., 1947. 2 months after the Roswell incident, President Truman instructs his new Secretary of Defense, James Forrestal, to create a classified group tasked with managing the UFO secret. This group is allegedly known as Majestic 12.
Retiring Secretary of Defense James V. Forrestal and his newly appointed successor Louis A. Johnson drop in at the White House. Wartime Secretary of Navy and first American to assume the title of Defense Secretary, Forrestal gets warm thanks from the President. For Johnson, one-time Assistant Secretary of War and old Truman friend, an equally warm...
Tell me a little bit about Admiral Forrestal.
Well, an amazing guy. First of all, he was the first Secretary of the Navy, but he was also one of the original founding members of Majestic 12, which Majestic 12 was a group that was created pretty much by the military to oversee all of the alien-related information, basically as a control mechanism to make sure that everything that came out or got out was filtered through them.
In 1947, Admiral Byrd flew over the North Pole. And it wasn't long after he flew over that North Pole that James Forrestal supposedly committed suicide.
From 1945 and the end of the war through 1989 and the end of the Cold War, we had a worldview. Republican and Democratic presidents alike, from Harry Truman to George Bush, stood for freedom and stood for certain propositions that would make America strong and healthy and grow the middle class and shrink poverty and stand against communism. And after 1989, President Bush said, and it's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
Remember now, he's the Secretary of Defense of the United States. In plainer words, he's been given the responsibility to defend this nation. He's in the chain of command, by the way, in the military. He is in the direct chain of command. He commands generals. Before he died, he demanded information on UFOs. UFOs. And it wasn't long after that that James Forrestal supposedly committed suicide, jumping from I think it's the 6th floor of a hospital.
He goes into Bethesda Naval Hospital. They put him in there, his fellow generals, because he's got 2 issues.
Now, is he in there as the Admiral or as the Secretary of the Navy?
That's a good question, as the Secretary of the Navy.
Okay.
He was replaced by a different general in Majestic, but they supposedly stated that he was having emotional issues. Well, what was bugging him, according to people that knew him, including his son, was he wanted to tell the American people what was going on.
There's a need for a new world order.
November the 12th, 1963, John Fitzgerald Kennedy demanded to know more about UFOs. 10 days later, he was dead in Dallas, Texas.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it.
Now we can see a new world coming into view. A world in which there is the very real prospect of a new world order.
What's going on? These are two high-profile people. When people in that position and place of authority die, then, we need to find out what's going on. They're dead. And their death was related to UFOs.
Now we can see a new world coming into view.
In December 1967, John Updike was writing Talk of the Town for the New Yorker, and he spent most of that Talk of the Town column talking about the Umbrella Man. He said that his learning of the existence of the Umbrella Man made him speculate that in historical research there may be a dimension similar to the quantum dimension in physical reality. If you put any event under a microscope, you will find a whole dimension of completely weird, incredible things going on. It's as if there's the macro level of historical research where things sort of obey natural laws and usual things happen and unusual things don't happen. And then there's this other level where everything is really weird. On November 22nd, it rained the night before, but everything cleared by about 9 or 9:30 in the morning. So if you were looking at various photographs of the motorcade route and the crowds gathered there, you will have noticed nobody's wearing a raincoat. Nobody has an open umbrella. Why? Because it's a beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. And then I noticed in all of Dallas, there appears to be exactly one person standing under an open black umbrella. And that person is standing where the shots begin to rain into the limousine. Let us call him the Umbrella Man.
Did you name the Umbrella Man?
Yes. You can see him in the certain frames from the Zapruder film standing right there by the Stemmons Freeway sign. There are other still photographs taken from other locations in Dealey Plaza which show the whole man standing under an open black umbrella. The only person under any umbrella in all of Dallas standing right at the location where all the shots come into the limousine. Can anyone come up with a non-sinister explanation?
The possibility of some shadow agent using an umbrella with a firearm built within its thin casing isn't the imagination of some James Bond movie's prop designer. The CIA was developing many such devices and weapons for their field agents. One of these, a young agent who would later become CIA Director and President of the United States of America, has been accused of being in Dallas and even present at Dealey Plaza during the assassination of President Kennedy.
But there is also alleged presence of future CIA Director and President of the United States, George H.W. Bush, in Dealey Plaza to contend with.
The architects for the Bay of Pigs were Vice President Richard Nixon and CIA Director Alan Jewells. JFK inherited the plan from the Eisenhower administration. Nixon lost the race for the presidency to JFK, and Jules was fired by JFK for the failure of the Bay of Pigs. Yet Jules is appointed by President Johnson as a Warren Commission member to investigate JFK's murder. The proof for Bush's lie about his CIA past can be found in a document declassified in 1988. It's a memorandum of FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover to the State Department, dated 29 November 1963. It describes a meeting, one day after JFK's murder, between FBI and CIA officials, talking about the reaction of the Cuban exile community to the Kennedy assassination. The last paragraph states that the substance of the foregoing information was orally furnished to us and George Bush of the Central Intelligence Agency. Here we have the name of George Bush mentioned as a CIA official in direct connection to the Kennedy assassination. When asked by journalists, he initially stated, "It's not me, must be another Bush." This was checked and found to not be true. When asked again, a spokesperson for Bush declined to comment any further. The obvious question is, why does Bush need to lie about it?
How could such a prestigious businessman, politician, Yale graduate, and statesman forget that not only was he in Dealey Plaza, but he had taken his son, George W. Bush, as well? How could such a prestigious businessman, politician, Yale graduate, and future president forget where he was on the most important day of American history?
And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day.
It's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
There's a couple of really strange looking men that were here, and they kind of freaked everybody out, and they were asking questions about you. And of course, now I'm getting a little bit nervous, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, well, they were, he goes, I don't know how to describe them except for extremely odd looking. They were the exact same height, they were wearing the exact same clothes, and they had the exact same faces, like they were twins. And he said they were wearing black suits, black trench coats, they were wearing like the old-fashioned fedora hats. They had extremely, extremely pale skin. And he said they came in and they asked for you.
70 years, we have had a new world order, and it's been relatively peaceful. What we are allowing Vladimir Putin to do is undermine that world order.